Hello and good morning. Welcome to the
Hey.
Coffee Table Talks. Today we have Jess Vachon with us, CISO at PRA Group. Yeah, I didn't mispronounce that or screw that up. Good, excellent, which is a financial organization. So that's the kind of fun things that Jess gets to do every day. And with me, as always, is my co-host Will McCullen, the program manager at the IT Center for Excellence at in Tucson, Arizona, at PIMA Community College. I screwed it up.
I was wondering if
Really
Tucson moved overnight.
We were having a lot of fun in the pre-show, chitty chatting back and forth, and I didn't do the thing where I like say it over and over and over and over again in my head. That's what happens.
I'm sorry. Do I give you nightmares? Do you wake up in the middle of the night thinking?
No, but Josh has said I have introduced you in my sleep before, sleep talking.
Ooh, I'm sorry.
I'm like, Will McCullen.
There's another person in the bedroom.
Makes for very awkward situations in the morning. He's like, "You were saying another man's name." I was like, "Yeah, but I was just introducing Will." That's
I need a shorter title.
fine, right? That's fine. That's fine. Good morning, James Craig, also known as Jim. Hi, Jim. Everybody be cool. That's Will's boss. Hey, Chip. How you doing? Good to see you. There's Steve.
Steve.
What's up? So, who wants to be a CISO? We should make a game show. Right? Who wants to be a CISO? I think the first round of things that would knock out our panel of game show players would be name that compliance. Name that. So, Jess, how did you get to be a CISO? Where did you start? It's been a fun ride coming up through. Yeah, go. Where did you start at? Military? Yeah.
Yeah, military. Had no thoughts then of being a CISO. I think my only thoughts were I want to get out of the military.
You didn't wake up one day and you were like, you know what I want to do when I grow up? I want to be.
I don't even think CISOs existed when I was in the military, or the title didn't exist when I was in the military. I don't mean in the military. I mean in general. I don't think the title existed. So I spent a lot of time post-military as an individual contributor. Did customer support engineering for Cisco, worked for Chase Bank doing firewalls and networks. And it was somewhere, I think, probably 4 or 5 years into my career where I was looking at my managers thinking, I can do this better than they can do this. So, well, I think sometimes when you're an individual contributor, you see things from the bottom up, right? And you know what you want to do, and you know how to do your job really well, and you can't understand why your managers aren't letting you do it the right way. So I was getting frustrated with that and said, well, I want to be a manager so I can let my teammates do things the right way.
Then I'm a jerk. I'm a terrible person. Then you don't want to hire me because when I'm like, I have this idea to do something, and other people are like, we probably shouldn't. I'm like, I didn't ask you. That wasn't a question. It was a statement.
So that's how you become a CISO, right? Is when you stop thinking that you have all the answers and you start listening to your team and what they want to do, because that's the whole power of the organization. But there's a big gap, right, between that point in my life and now. And I kind of started up the management ladder, building IT teams, building data centers.
So wait. So you did this. This was just so I can keep my timeline straight. Whenever you started, what the first team that you ever built? When was that?
I'm going to date myself. 2006.
Okay, great. That's fine. Because that's before like a lot of people had adopted social media and everybody was online. Like there were a lot, right?
Yeah.
Facebook
and Twitter were there.
Yeah, but how did you find those people? Like, were they people you worked with before?
I love that question. So the first day I walked into my first management job, they dropped a stack of paper resumes. We didn't no digital resumes.
Yeah.
Resumes on my desk and said, "Here, go through these. These are all applicants for your position. Why don't you find someone who can come in and work for you?" And so that's what I started doing. I went through and started calling people. Said I had these positions. I had to build a help desk. I needed systems engineers. I needed people who could build out the network and data centers. So I just started going through those and calling people. I hired like 3 or 4 people, brought them in, they started doing their work, and then they would say, "Hey, I have a friend who has done 3 years of college for IT," or "I have a friend who's been doing IT on the side, but they're a cook at a restaurant." So I said, "Well, bring them in." Um, I spent a lot of time in college and high school working in restaurants. So I understood that in a restaurant, it's a chaotic environment with a lot of stress, right? Right? A lot of yelling, a lot of having to put things together and work as a team to get things done. So I figured if someone can work in a restaurant, or they can work behind a bar as a bartender, or they've got military experience or law enforcement experience, then they understand how to work in stressful situations. And that is what IT and information security are all about.
Right.
So, I look at what I call intrinsic value in people, beyond just their skills, beyond their technical skills. Like, what do they bring to the table as a person? And then how do they interact with other people? Because what we do way back when I first started was all about, we do all these technical things and that's just the way it is. And now it's a lot of education. It's a lot of working with other people. It's a lot of influencing. It's a lot of communication, a lot of coaching. So I look for people that have those skills. And that's how I started building that team. There's a blueprint. I just figured, I worked managing teams in the Marine Corps. I know how to work on a team as an individual contributor, so I'm just going to use that experience to start building out my teams.
Very cool. So do you feel like you got it right that first time whenever you selected those people to work together as a team?
The people I got right. I will tell you, when I first started out in management, I was awful. Like I was trying to run it like the military, which doesn't work for civilians.
No.
And I had a tendency to just look at who was achieving, like producing the results, and not think about how to develop the whole team, and make sure I was supporting the whole team. So I don't know if that's typical for other people who go through management, but it was definitely a learning experience. And every iteration after that, I tried to learn from my mistakes and learn from the teams around me and get better in how I was supporting the whole needs of the whole team.
Right. Yeah, I had a lot of management experience, specifically in the restaurant industry, before I jumped into cybersecurity. Because I'm like what do they call that? A mid-career life change, whatever. I don't know. I don't know. I think I had a midlife crisis, and I was like, cybersecurity, we're doing that. Sure. But really, what it was I didn't just transition like stop restaurants, go to cybersecurity. What ended up happening was I got there in a long roundabout way. So I was in restaurants and I kind of looked around one day and I was like, I don't know, 28, and I was managing bar, and then I went to go manage an IHOP that opened up near me, like right, just jumping around in these different management positions. And of course I tended bar and I was a server and I was a trainer and all that stuff for the industry. And I looked around and realized there is nobody in management that's over 40. And I started to think about, why is that? It's because they were either dead from stress or they were smart and got out. They were like, not forever. This is not okay.
Well,
Or, they went
Patrick
on.
brings up an awesome point right there, right? Do not underestimate the power of working fast food, working
Yep.
any one of those things where you have a rush going on, you have priorities.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. I was like, if you want quick ability and to develop your skill in understanding how to readjust your priorities, because you can't do everything. There's so much to do at once, but you have to prioritize what comes next. Yes, exactly.
And that's like one of the basic interview questions, right? Yep. You almost always have some interview question that is, can they articulate priorities? right?
Yes. Yes. 100. You know what though? I've been in interview processes where they ask me that question and I kind of go deer in headlights. One of the first that's when I realized I need to practice interviews. Uh Nobody's going to hire me cuz I do deer in headlights things where I'm like, "What do you mean how to?" And it's because after a little bit of introspection, I'm like, you know what it is? It's so ingrained because I came out of the restaurant industry. I don't know how to explain to somebody else that I can actually prioritize things. So I had to teach myself how to do that, how to slow down and go, this is how I prioritize things based on these, previous experiences. Here are some examples even. And
I don't think that's unusual, though. I work with a lot of mentees that they don't understand how to take those lived experiences and show the potential they have to do the work in IT or information security. It's important to kind of guide people on that, because I think we have a tendency to think those experiences aren't important. They're not relevant, and they absolutely 100% are relevant to being able to do the work.
Yeah, definitely. So I didn't do the stop go right from restaurants to cybersecurity. In between, I worked for a chemical company, and I suffered an accident while working for that company where I got some very, very terrible chemical like concentrated in my eyeball, and went to the hospital, had it flushed out. Thought my eye was going to melt out of my brain. It was a whole thing. And my husband was already working in cybersecurity. I'd helped him, study through his college experience, and being an ADHD squirrel, I was like, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. So he worked with John Davis previously, and John Davis was actually the CEO of SecureNation, the guy. Oh wait, over there, that says everyone should work in the service industry. Echoing Patrick's point, gave me a shot and said, "Here, I bet you're smarter about this stuff than you think you are, and here's an office. Go do stuff." And I've been so spoiled. So back to the other point when what I was saying about nobody, like, I just say I got this idea, and if other people are like, no, I'm like, I didn't ask you. It's a statement. I have an idea and we're gonna figure it out. Like, it's not, no is not an answer. I'm so spoiled rotten.
Well, Jess, right? Early on, when things were getting going, the internet, I can remember back. Do I want to say that? I can remember when we were trying to get everything going with the internet. You're getting into wild concepts like privatized IP addressing and all that kind of area.
Wild.
It was really hard to figure all that out because a whole lot of it wasn't figured out at the time. So the people that you needed were those that had the passion and the hunger, right?
Yes.
And how do you find that today with your teams? Because that's still a big element, right?
Yeah, there's a passion and a hunger there. It's much different than it was late 90s, right? Because late 90s, I can only imagine it's like in the US when we started pushing westward and people were like, let's just go and it's going to be dangerous and we'll figure it out as we get there. And
that's how you die on the Oregon Trail.
Right, exactly. That's why we have the game, right? So now the roads are established. We have interstates to get to where you want to be in your IT or information security career. But there's still passion there. When I go to RSA and I go to Cyversity's events or the WESIS events, I almost tried to say WESIS's events, but that wouldn't work very well. And I talk to the younger people coming into the field. They are super passionate about what they're doing. They want to learn everything. They want to do the cyber ranges. They want to learn about governance, risk, and compliance. They want to understand how to do networking. And they will seek out people who have this experience and this knowledge, and they will pick your brain. They will sit there for, I've started with one or two people, and all of a sudden I have like 10 people standing around asking me all these different questions, and they're just sucking in the knowledge. So the passion is there. It's different. They don't take shortcuts. I think there's this impression that the younger generation wants to take shortcuts to success. No, they want to earn it, but they just want people to get out of their way so that they can learn it as fast as they're capable of learning it. They want to move up. If they have the capabilities to do that next level of job, they want to do it. So, in terms of managing the younger generations now coming into the field, to your earlier point, we have to let them tell us what they want to do. And then we have to move the obstacles out of the way and let them go. If you do that, your team is just going to be red hot.
Speaking of moving obstacles out of the way, there's a QR code right here that says donate. This is the link to the center, the 5013C, the nonprofit arm of ISC2, where we've got a campaign running under the Coffee Table Talks to help support students in furthering their education and gaining certifications. So if you've ever wanted to support the Coffee Table Talks, this is what you're going to do. You're going to go there, and then you're going to put like $2 in it or something. I don't know. Do something. Those certificates get really expensive. Everybody knows that. And sometimes those are the blockades that are in somebody's way, is that they don't currently work in a job where that job is happy to pay for their certificate or for their continued education, even on a reimbursement thing. Sometimes that's a real struggle for folks, right? Some of the SANS and other certifying bodies certificates can be thousands of dollars to take the coursework and then take the exam. That's hard for a lot of people, right? So that's what we're doing. We partnered with them. Go there, donate to that. Help somebody out. They give out 100 of these scholarships a year. 60% of them go for continuing education in cybersecurity and IT, and then 40% of the scholarships that they award go towards paying for somebody to be certified. And it's not a reimbursement program. It's here's the money, use it. Here you go. So anyway, sorry. I just wanted to do that very quickly before I switch over to the other one. You guys should go check out Jess's LinkedIn while we're talking too and connect there.
The awesome point that you had there, Jess. Also, a big part of this is your focus on management, because you are realizing trying to fit the people in where they need to be that works for them, that can be the most successful for you. A lot of folks don't have that wisdom, unfortunately, right? So, it's just, you fit into this spot, you do this, make this work, as opposed to the approach that you're taking is finding out what they want to do, what their strengths are, and helping to move things in to fit those strengths, right? How much of that do you do on a regular basis?
So that's an established practice that we have. We call it career pathing, and thankfully I'm with an organization that supports that. So we look at the different, what we call columns of work that we do. So it can be architecting, it could be engineering, it could be operations. And we look at what skills we'd like to see for each level within those columns. And then we figure out what the career path is going to look like and what training does the individual need. Now, we may put someone in one of those columns. Let's say we put them in operations and find out that they're really strong. They're really oriented towards engineering. And they're saying, look, I want to be building stuff. I understand the operations. I've really, mastered this area. Please, can I do this other thing? Well, I remember back to when I was an engineer, and I hated being pigeonholed because I felt like I could do so much more. I felt like I was only running sometimes at 70% of my capabilities. I don't want that for someone else, because I remember what that felt like for me. So we may initially put them in a position and get them going and see how they do in it. But if they don't like that position, or they're not a good fit, or they have a passion for a different position, we'll have that conversation. And I think you have to do that. Now, sometimes you can have that conversation. You're not going to have a place to move that person to. I think what we have to do as leaders at that point is help encourage them to find that position. It may be outside our organization where they can excel, right? Now, a lot of companies say, well, we don't want to do that because we're going to lose a person. Well, if we're not able to support them in the way they need to be supported, they're going to leave anyways.
Right.
We might as well
be mad about it.
And we might as well make it a good relationship.
Yeah.
And down the road, if I've supported someone moving into a new position in a different organization, and I move on and I need a particular skill set and they have it, what do you think the chances are I'm going to be able to hire that person?
Oh, they're coming running back. They're like, whatever it is, just one. Here I come.
So we have the short game, we have the mid-range game, we have the long game. And sometimes that's all in our organization. We can break that down in our organization, but it's also in our careers, right? It's in my career. I have to think about, where am I going to be in 5-10 years, and who do I want to be able to work with? And if I've worked with someone, I've helped develop them, and we have that working relationship, it's much easier to bring them in, much quicker. They're going to hit the ground running, and it's beneficial. For me, being in leadership is about developing the next generation that's going to be doing the work, creating opportunities for them, making them feel comfortable in their lives, and giving back, right? So I have 3 adult children, and when they sat around the kitchen table, we always talked about, look, you come into this world and you take. By nature of being alive, you take. But your goal is that when you leave this world, you should leave it with more than you took. So that's not just something I said to my kids. That's something I tried to do by example for them. And so I put that into my work. That's one of the philosophies I have at work, is always taking care of the team, always leaving them in a better place for having known me than when I first arrived.
That's fantastic.
And this is why I want to go to Jess's house and play D&D in your office, because it looks like a place I want to do that. You've also got some other fun things. You told us in the pre-show, you told Will and I that like your office is very much so your personality.
Very much.
Yeah. So what's on the other? So we see the plants. So you're good plant parent, because they all look very happy and healthy.
I hope so. Yeah, I love my plants. I love gardening and all that. But in front of me, what no one can see is it's all steampunk. I'm a big Fallout 4 fan, Fallout series fan. But it's not just steampunk. I also have Star Trek there. I have mementos from when I lived over in Japan. Yeah, there we go. I love it. And then I grew up on comics, so I have a whole comic, Marvel's, DC section in here as well. So it's pretty eclectic.
Do you have a favorite comic, or you just love them?
So the Punisher and not Punisher as everyone knows it in like the last 5 years, and how it's been co-opted. Like when the comic book first came out, I had the first comics. The Punisher was a Marine, so obviously being a Marine, that's another thing that attracted me to it. But one of the artists that has drawn the Punisher, I actually met him, became friends with him. He gave some courses to my youngest, who's now an artist as well. And I have a downstairs home theater, and I have 3 original pieces, the progression pieces of the Punisher artwork that he did for Marvel. So yeah, so I'm a pretty big Punisher fan.
Wow, what a thing to have as a Punisher! Like, did you audibly go squee?
I was at a Comic-Con and I had a Punisher shirt on. I was just walking by the artist and wasn't really paying attention. And Steve Geiger is the artist's name. Said, "Hey, have you ever wanted to meet the artist who draws the Punisher?"
How funny!
I didn't know who he was at that time, so I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And I said, "Where is he?"
Well, look,
he said, "I'm right here."
If you don't have anything going on the second weekend in January, there's a huge Fan Expo Comic-Con that happens in New Orleans. And I just bought Josh tickets, my husband, for his birthday present, because his birthday's also that weekend. So you should come. come be nerds with us. It'll be fun. It'll be great. Bring kids. I don't care. I'm not bringing mine. They're small and loud. So they're staying at the grandparents, but you should come. It'll be a great time. Maybe, I don't know. Now I'm going to go look at what comic book artists are supposed to be there. All I know is Alan Tudyk is coming, and I'm stoked. I'm a big fan.
So I love Comic Cons, and I've done the Star Trek convention in Las Vegas. I did that in 2019, right before the pandemic. So I love Star Trek. Got a good friend who runs a Star Trek podcast, the Trek Geeks podcast.
Nice.
So I've had the opportunity to interact with some of the actors as well.
Oh, awesome.
Hang on.
That would be a blast.
I'm giving you a Fan Expo link. Hold on a second. Oops.
Yeah. Do you have things like the original Starfleet technical manual and all that kind of stuff? And
so I have a lot of the starships. I was into that collection for a while. So I have a shelf that I made that's down in my home theater area that has like planets. I did a YouTube on how to figure out how to do a shelf and make planets, like using spray paint and stuff.
Wow.
And then I put some LED lights behind that, and I have like probably 30 or 40 of the starships from Star Trek on there. So yeah, I don't just talk about being a geek. I have the proof to back it up all over the house.
Joshua Wilson says he met LeVar Burton once and he's a gem in person. I bet he is. Are you kidding me? So you know how they're like, you can just kind of tell a lot about people from where they know a certain celebrity that does a lot of stuff. So like we're talking Star Trek and he's like LeVar Burton. I'm like reading Rainbow.
right.
Like I forget. Our house is Star Wars. Not that we disparage Star Trek, but I'm just saying it's a lot of Star Wars. And Pokemon. Do you see the edge of my? This is my family portrait that hangs in my living room. It's in Pokemon style. My husband had it commissioned. Like we all have our favorite Pokemon with us. Like my kids are here, and then the husband is at the top there with his favorite. And yes, that is a poster of Princess Leia on my back wall. Anyway, it's a whole thing. But you should come and hang out. Do you find that you relate more to a lot of the people that work in our industry because you have these interests and hobbies in different stuff? Or because I do, everybody has their fandom, I feel like, in cybersecurity. So it's always fun to sit and, fangirl with people.
It's amazing how many Trekkies are in the industry. And then there's always the Star Wars fans as well. I like Star Wars just fine, but I grew up on
Star Trek. Right. Yeah, I respect both. Yeah. I respect that.
Well, the original series, right, that was the only really solid science fiction on TV, and they did those repeats over and over and over again. So any one of us at that time saw every one of those episodes like 10 times.
Yeah, they were great. And then Battlestar Galactica, I don't want to let that go by either.
No.
Both the original series and the follow-on series, just tremendous. I love science fiction, so
me too.
But the really cool thing in the major elements of Star Trek first time was Gene Roddenberry's concept of a very positive future. I like that. And so being able to take that and instill that as part of your whole industry, part of your project is incredibly valuable. And man, we need more of that.
We're so deep. Why are we so deep today?
Well, I think that's a good point, though. I think now, like, I find myself watching the series, going back and watching the series a lot more because it's giving me something I need. In 2024, going to 2025 in the next few years, I think a lot of us, or some of us, let's say half of us in the US, are trying to look at that positive aspect of what we can be, what we can aspire to. And I think that's why some people do the work we do, right? Because we see what the possibility of a future is, what it can be, and somewhere we're trying to work in that direction.
Have you ever? So I'm curious because, right, we were talking about, I don't know, did we say that during the live or was it just in pre-show, Will, where we were talking about Evan, Chris Roberts, and Ryan getting together last night on YouTube?
That was just in the pre-show, yeah.
Okay, so if you guys didn't go see it, what is it called? Insanity to InfoSec? I think that's Evan's new stream podcast thing. I was on it. This is terrible. It's a terrible intro. Sorry, Evan. Please don't shoot me. Anyhow, they did one last night where they reinvigorated something they did a couple of years ago called the Security Shit Show, and it was the three of them sitting around commiserating and being stressed out about the security shit show that we all live in. But anyway, last night they did a reinvigoration, just one time kind of thing. and they were talking a lot about burnout, right? A lot. And I see just that you have a very, what I think of as a healthy hobby base. Do you find that do you always have those hobbies, or did you go looking for hobbies for that mental health piece? Was it, or is it something that you're just one of those awesome people that naturally have a good balance? Like, do you get burnout?
No, I don't. I wish I naturally had the balance. I have highs and lows just like everybody else. Um, you know, those hobbies were to give me a place that, not that I could control, but that I felt comfortable in. Um, but I have to do much more beyond that. I meditate every morning for a half an hour, and then I work out for an hour because that's how I have to get myself kind of regulated for the day, um, and balance all the stress that comes with the job and leading people, because you've got a lot of lives that you have to be responsible for as well.
Yeah.
Um, I also think as you get older and you have more experience, you gain some wisdom about what matters and what doesn't matter. And, if things are blowing up, what's the damage really going to be in certain situations? So you learn how to balance some of that. I step away. Like when my day is done, my day is done. And with the teams that I work with, I tell them the same thing. Like, you have to have an end to your day.
Yeah.
You can keep working, and the companies are going to love you if you keep working, but you're going to miss time with your kids. You're going to miss time with your spouse. You're going to miss time, for the things that feed your soul. We're not here just to do work.
Yeah.
Right. That can't be the only meaning we have. So you have to look beyond that.
Well, and you can't pour from an empty cup. It's important that you take time away to fill up your own cup so that you can pour some more out the next day. But you have to, it's a cycle, right? And I'm saying that like I'm just the wisest person in the world. I am not. I have burnt myself out before, burning at both ends, just go, 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 go. I saw it coming. I knew it was coming. I still did it anyway. Like, because it was, I had that hustle mentality with blinders on, right? Because ADHD, go team. You get hyper focused into a goal, especially when you're passionate about it. And it could be something, right? Because you can be passionate about this thing in your career, be passionate also about being this to your family, be passionate about these things in your friend communities, or right, your fandoms, or those kind of things, and have a goal in each category. But then whenever you get blinders on and you're hyper focused on one, the other two fall away, and you're missing these rungs to your stool, and you fall down because you need them all. And I've done it too, but I have to tell myself all the time. And that's something my mother-in-law shared with me a long time ago, that you cannot pour from an empty cup kind of situation. In your job, that can look something like, can you just talk to your manager about pushing a deadline a little further because you have so many other things on your plate, or getting with them to understand what priorities are, like having that sounding board, to be like, hey, I have these 10 things. Which do you think, right? Sometimes having that outside voice, 'cause, right, you can't see the storm when you're standing in the middle of it, kind of thing.
Right.
And having somebody on the outside to kind of look in and tell you, well, this is a hurricane, right? It's, it's a category 5. We need to get to higher ground. Or, oh, it's just a rainstorm. Afternoon showers are going to pass over and it's going to be fine in a few minutes, kind of thing. I think that's really valuable.
Yeah.
So, yay.
And I've had those moments when I've noted that staff had an empty cup and said, look, you need to go.
Yeah.
Just take a couple days PTO, because you're empty and you're starting to, your nerves are raw and it's starting to be seen. And, I've had to recently model it where I said, look, I have to take a sick day. I have nothing left, and knew if I tried to show up that it wasn't going to be positive. And I can't have that. And I need to model what I say to my teams, right? If I say, take time for your mental health, I need to do it for myself.
Right. And that's so important, right? You can't, and for the people that are spiraling like, and I had to be real honest with myself too, whenever it happened to me. And like, it happens to all of us in the industry at some point or another, to the degree is different for everybody. But like Evan was talking last night, he was like, I'm so burnt out. He's like, I know I am. I am so burnt out. And whenever I come up to it, I'm like, this is terrible. I have to stop because the amount of time it's going to take me to recover from my burnout is 4 times as long as if I had just paused before it happened. If I did that preventative care stuff. So I think yes, I agree. This is me going like this with everything Jess says.
Yeah, definitely, get that release time, and also, follow your vision, have your role models. And so we're talking about cons, right? So I just have to share one of my role models and people that I've always looked up to. We had a good time at Phoenix Comic Con.
That's Will. Look, that's Will right there with a Van Dyke right there. Where'd he go? And that's your wife. She's so pretty.
Yes.
I love that. I love that.
That's good. Good timing, Will. Were you like furiously off to the side digging that out?
Yep.
Do we have to explain to the people who are tuning in what that is? Because I know I'm old enough to know what that is.
Oh, Will, you have to explain to somebody what you just showed. Explain it to the 18-year-old.
Oh, come on. I think everyone has seen Mary Poppins, right?
Maybe not. You don't know. You can't assume that.
Dick Van Dyke, who has led a life and a career of being very positive, very engaged. So that was a Comic-Con where I was going as his character in Mary Poppins, and my wife was going as Mary Poppins, obviously, of that generation of movie. But Dick Van Dyke has been always positive and in incredibly good shape. Really good at putting that positive vision forward all the time. That's important. If we do that more, you've got to keep those goals of what you want to be and what you want to become to move in that direction. Right? Tell students all the time, take an image of what you want to be. Think about that person. Think about what that person does, how they talk, they act, what they want to do, and then work to meet that image that you put in front of you.
John says, of course, y'all would be those characters. Yeah.
Well,
it fits. It does fit. It's fine. This is fine.
I know.
I had a thought, and then I got distracted by John.
I'm full of schmaltz and ham.
My goodness. So what is it every day that makes you get up, Jess, and go, I cannot wait. This is going to be the best. I'm excited. I'm excited for this.
I love the people I work with.
Yeah.
And I mean that. Like, I love working with them. They're some of the smartest people I've met. They show up with energy. They show up with passion. They're ready to do new things. I'm ready to do new things. I think I told both of you earlier, I say all the time, let's break the box. Let's not do things the way they've always been done just because everyone's doing that.
When you said that earlier, the break the box, I wrote a comment down on my little notey pad, my ADHD squirrel notepad, that says, why is it not just think outside the box? Jess said, break it. Yeah. We're not going to stand outside of it. No, we're going to stand outside of it and break it.
Well, why do you want to keep the box there, right? The box is serving no purpose other than to tell you this is how you should do things, and you can't work outside the box. Get rid of the boxes.
I love that so much. I wrote it down.
I mean, we're in a world where technology is changing so fast, right? If you have projects that go longer than 18 months, your projects are ineffective because the technology's already changed. So you can't keep operating the same way you always have. Not even the last 12 months. Like you have to keep adapting because In information security, the threat actors are adapting and changing. So the same tactics aren't going to work, but life continues to change. Nothing from moment to moment is exactly the same as it was before. So, you can take the research, you can take the knowledge and the wisdom, but you have to be able to craft that and make it work for the situation that's in front of you. So that's what gets me up. That's what keeps me excited.
That's the thing that makes me excited to be in the industry, is the fact that I get to approach things. Like, I could have worked on a project a year ago that I'm about to embark on a very similar project, and I know it's not going to be the same. There are going to be some things that are the same, but there are going to be enough changes that I still am like super engaged.
Right.
That's why I've like just jumped in with all the way. No arm floaties or nothing. Just like sink or swim time, baby. Just because I like it. The water's
Well,
nice.
that's part of the stress too, right? Because there's a ton of knowledge you need in the industry to be able to function and do. That's why you have folks coming up to you just trying to absorb as much as they can get. Students also want to get past the craft, right? Let's get down to the point. Let's make it practical instead of traditional with a whole bunch of fluff. And to be able to exist in that kind of environment, you need a supportive environment. You need that fantastic leadership that you're showing of giving that sense of security, because you can't be creative without some sense of security. And I don't mean protective security. I mean being able to know that you can focus on your job and not have to focus on looking over your shoulder, that kind of thing.
Right.
So it's a very complex field that we got going on now. So coming from a student perspective, what's the best strategy to start to head into that direction, to find employment like what you have, right? Because it's hard to get a job these days unless you have the experience, the background, and have already kind of proven yourself to some degree. Would you say that was a fair statement?
Yes, it's very difficult to come into the industry. Yes, I would wholeheartedly agree with that. It's not impossible. You're going to have to stand out from everybody else. I will tell you that a lot of people who ask me if I can mentor them show up and they think I'm going to snap my fingers and they're going to get a job. I don't have those magical powers. I just don't. Love to have them. I don't. I don't have all the jobs to give these people. I'd love to have those too, but I don't. So if you want to be successful, you have to understand it's going to be a lot of hard work, and it's not just the technical training. You have to show up at the networking events. You have to build your community. You have to post on LinkedIn to show your knowledge. You have to stand out. The last 2 jobs that I've gotten, I got because I was active on LinkedIn. I was active in the community. I was trying to display my knowledge in a way that a broader audience could see it. So you might not have the experience in a company. That doesn't mean the experience that you've gained through your training is not of value, but you've got to find a way to distinguish that. So that's the one piece. You've got to know how to interview. I think we were talking about that earlier, like be prepared to answer the questions. And if you haven't worked in the industry, you might have some intrinsic value, something you have done in your career that can serve as an example of the work potential that you have. Demonstrating your potential. That's what we do whenever we interview. We're demonstrating our potential. The employer, the hiring manager, doesn't know anything about us, so we have to tell them that story. Like,
Right.
I haven't had this direct experience, but I had parallel experience that I think would serve me well in this position. And here's the technical stuff I do know how to do. So this is how I would bring those 2 things together and do them for your company. You have to keep running. You have to keep reading. As soon as you let off the gas, you're falling behind. I see that with a lot of people mid-career. Okay.
I told somebody one. Because I have a few mentees. I'm way more still ingesting all of my mentors' wisdom than I am giving. Like, it's coming eventually. I'm gonna make you proud one day, Jess. But tell my mentees all the time. I'm like, the minute you stop learning is when you start dying.
Yes.
I don't care where you are anywhere in the planet. The minute you decide I'm done learning stuff, that is the moment that your body and your brain start to die. Okay. I'm taking care of one of my parents who is elderly. And I harp on him all the time. I used to congratulate him all the time for picking up new technology or a new concept he wanted to explore or anything else. And he gets in these bouts of sadness about, facing his own mortality where he just kind of wants to give up. And I'm like, don't do that. Don't do that. Because that's the minute you should be concerned about it. Don't ever stop learning. Learn something new. Maybe not every day, right? That's a lot for some people. But like once or twice a week won't hurt you. It's like exercising for your body. It's good for you. Go do it. Gotta exercise your brain.
That's a great point, right? You have to keep exercising it. You have to keep going. I had an example, a family example, very early in my career. A family member who had a small advertising firm, and they ended up getting the contract for the Boston Red Sox for a season. They were highly successful. And then, a few years later, they sold off the business, and that individual went to look to do something else. Well, the advertising industry tools had changed, right? They were becoming more computerized. You had to know how to manipulate graphics, and they were struggling on that. And I asked them, I said, well, are you going to go take a course? No, why should I have to do that? I've been doing this for years. Well, from that point on, that person found it harder and harder and harder to find jobs until they couldn't find any job.
Right.
That lesson to me was never rest on your laurels, keep learning, keep going out there, keep trying, because those are your options. Like, you keep working. It's life. It's a marathon. You got to keep running it the whole time, or you sit down on the sidelines and you watch the rest of the runners pass you by, and you're putting yourself in that position. Now, I understand there's a lot of people out there that aren't working right now, and they're still running, and I get that. Those aren't the people I'm talking about, because you're in a tough job market, which hopefully is trending to pick up. And I know they're still out there learning. They're still trying to be relevant. So I don't want those individuals to feel like I'm talking about them. I'm talking about the people that absolutely have completely given up. Say I have 15, 20 years. I don't need to go learn. I don't need to have certifications. Well, you can hold that belief, and you can see how that serves you.
Right. I think that's a point to a lot of the continuing education stuff with certifications. Like, once you get your certification, you have to re-up. Josh just went through this with some of his certifications where he has to demonstrate to the certifying body that this is how many hours I've mentored. This is how many conferences I have attended. These are the conferences, right? Because they also qualify that. Or these are the courses that I've taken outside of it. And there are lots of things to complain about certification, but there are also lots of really good things. And I think the push towards you have to re-up the certification kind of lends to inspiring people to continue to learn, right? That's why those things are in place, is because it is so important. There is a huge certifying body, or several in our industry, that are like, keep learning stuff. Don't stop.
Absolutely. Yeah, if it's not the certifications, it's the projects, the technologies.
Yeah.
Because if you don't necessarily have to have the certifications, they help a lot with HR. But if you have a background of constantly manipulating and moving different products, different platforms, different avenues, different approaches, working with large teams that are trying to make things happen, that applies very heavily as well. Because it's like Chip brought up in there, the hands-on, the actually doing, the practical is what really stands out, right? And that's why we're trying at PIMA to have students to be able to go on and be working with those teams and hands-on, and it's got to change. The education has to change to meet that, because what it sounds like what you need in industry are folks that have actually done, folks that are actually working on those elements to make a difference.
Yes,
So
but
I can't.
we have to invest in it too. We can't say simply as an industry, you have to come in with all the training and experience. We're not giving you any.
Right. Rude.
That's completely absurd. Look, pick any job you've ever had in your life. Did you just walk in and they just said, well, okay, go do it? No, they taught you how to do the job, right?
Yeah.
And if you were successful, they gave you some more training to do the job even better because it was in their best interest.
Right.
You know, there's that quote that floats around out there, like, what if we give them training and they leave? And the flip side of that is, what if we don't and they still leave? Like,
Exactly.
in my career, which is over 20 years, have invested in staff continuously. It's one of the things I tell people I work with, that you better expect you going to training. Like, this isn't optional. I have never had anyone leave because they had training opportunities. Never. They've stayed. They've given back. So why wouldn't we do that?
Yeah. It makes sense. Invest in the people. Avoid burnout. Have hobbies. Be a nerd. Let's see, what are some good highlights we've gotten out of this?
Have a lot of caffeine.
Have a lot of caffeine. Break boxes.
Break boxes.
Break the boxes. If you haven't watched Star Trek, you should do that. If somebody, who is it? There's somebody in here that says they work for you, Jess.
Yeah.
Where is it? Where is it?
It's Patrick.
Patrick.
There's a couple of them in there.
There was somebody, it may have been Patrick. Correct me if I'm wrong, Patrick. Sorry. Somebody in there said, I've worked with you literally, and I didn't know how much of a nerd you were. So look, that's good. We've done that.
Yeah, I don't nerd out too often in front of the team. Although,
why not?
Well, I have. So we have these Friday afternoon. It's like a relaxed end of the week, blow off steam kind of meeting. I love it. It's there so that the team can kind of come together after they put in all that work during the week. And we had one session where everyone was showing up wearing hats, all different types of hats. So we have an old dive helmet in the house. So I went and grabbed that and put it back on, and just to show them that, I could participate as well. So I do participate, but and I think those members of the team that go to conferences, like if we go to a conference together or training together, they get to see that other
side
of me. So yeah.
Is most of your team remote then?
Yes.
Gotcha. Isn't that fun? And whenever you get to meet up with everybody, like, it's different, right? Like, the feedback's different, I think. Whenever you have those conversations face to face, there's more, there's nuance you miss.
There's something to be said for having a meal with people too.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite things to do, by the way, is take people out to eat. And that's all John Davis's fault. That's John Davis's favorite thing to do, is to feed people. So look, if anybody ever comes to this neck of the woods, or we happen to be in your neck of the woods, just hit us up. We're gonna go get tacos or something. Like, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
Yeah. So that's all. This is really good and fantastic challenge. And I thank you for your leadership in this industry, because it's a pressure cooker, right? Because you need to keep up with skills. Skills are really important. Then you also have other areas like Chip is obviously under a huge amount of pressure with OT, trying to help save this country. And so that ramifications are getting larger and larger. So we got to pull together, folks. And thank you, Jess, for also getting that viewpoint of leadership out, because we need that solidly across the board to help support all of this.
Yeah. Well, I'm thankful to all the leaders that I've had to set the example before me, and the teams that granted me the opportunity to be a leader for them. Because if people don't want to follow, then you're not a leader. So we should always be thankful to those that we're guiding, because they make us better.
Oh, John wants to know what conference you're headed to next.
What conference I'm headed to next?
Yeah, you or the team.
Yeah, probably it's going to be RSA.
San Francisco?
Yeah, San Francisco will probably be the next one.
There you are, John. That's your sign that we got to go back to San Francisco. The last time we went to RSA was pandemic year. Like it was that where like I don't know if we came back with it, but I didn't feel good. But sometimes that happens whenever I travel, especially to different time zones. Do you ever get that? Like there's some kind of, it's not just jet lag, it's just like I'm like, I just want a cup of tea and my soft blanket for like 2 days.
And sometimes the humidity level matters, right?
Yeah, it does. Really bad. Like that time I went to Tucson and dried out so bad. So I live in South Louisiana. The humidity outside is like 80% or more. Like doesn't matter what time of year. It could be cold, December, January. You can walk outside and still cut it with a knife. Like it's a thing. Does my skin look beautifully hydrated all the time? Why, yes, it does. I went to Tucson, Arizona, and I discovered how old I really am, because the second day that I was in that environment, I was like, so, there's no water left in my skin.
You have to drink a lot of water.
My throat, you guys, my eyeballs felt crusty. It's like I don't think I'm gonna make it. And by day like 3, hadn't I completely lost my voice? It was gone. I couldn't talk anymore. It was terrible. It was bad. So look, hydrate. Hydrate, break boxes, and be friends with Jess. And anybody associated with Jess. Where'd this go? Patrick and Joshua, wherever you guys are, I'm coming for you next. That's what happens when you get chitty chatty. I'm like, is that friend shaped? Yes, it is.
Oh, and Jess, if along your theme of not doing the same thing, do you have a clock that runs backwards, throwing off that Grace Hopper reference?
What? What is this? You're gonna have to help me.
Oh, Grace Hopper. Oh, you've got to watch the videos. Grace Hopper is awesome. And one of the things that she put up in her department was a clock that had all the numbers reversed, right? And ran backwards, just so that she point out, don't do things in the standard way. There's no reason the clock couldn't go counterclockwise instead of clockwise.
I love that. I love that. I'm going to need to get a Grace Hopper clock.
I wrote it down.
Steampunk. Put it on the wall.
I like it. Speaking of steampunk, we're going to Ren Fair this weekend in Louisiana. It's in a very cute, adorable town called Hammond, Louisiana. If anybody's coming, come on. We'll hang out and get turkey legs together. We dress up, though, so if you don't show up, dress up. We're all going to call you the pleb. But yeah, it'll be fun. Super fun. And next week, we're not doing coffee table talks because it's Turkey Day. And we'll be spending time with families. And I'm going to try really hard to not go shopping anywhere. Because I hate it.
Because by Friday morning, that's zombie state category. That's...
Yeah, we're gonna hang out at the house with the kids as much as possible.
Awesome.
Nice.
Go bike riding or do something. Jess, thank you for coming and hanging out with us today. You're an amazing human. I don't know if anybody's told you that yet today, but you're an amazing human.
Well, thank you. I'm just an ordinary person, but happy if anything I have to say helps anyone.
I wish you were the ordinary. That was you're not ordinary. You're spectacular. Okay.
Well, my family tells me I'm not ordinary, but they don't say it in such nice terms.
Oh, no. When I say it, it's good. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. So y'all have a great Thanksgiving in the US. Yes. Is everybody here from US today? I don't know. Sometimes they're not. What happened to our German friend?
I don't know.
Have we checked on him lately?
I'll have to reach out to him.
Yes, we should do that. And Will, thank you for coming and hanging out. You're the best. And thank you to our audience. I do a lot of thank yous and so much gratuity at the end. Okay, we're going to stop now because then I'm going to be like, thanks, Mom, and thanks, Dad. And it's going to be bad.
Hey, but I love the chat. I mean, they're very active today. That's awesome.
I've been trying not to read it because it's cracking me up, and I didn't want to start laughing randomly.
So, and another thing, if anybody tuning in today, if y'all ever want to reach out to me or Will, and I'm sure Jess is open to, right? That's why we have Jess's. Hang on. Let me get the right QR code. Hold on. LinkedIn. That'll take you to Jess's LinkedIn.
I have a QR code.
You do. Go connect. I know all the Gen Zers were like, no, it's okay. But I tested it first. It goes to Jess's LinkedIn. Okay. Just scan it. Or you can just look up Jess Vachon on LinkedIn. It'll also take you there. If you like that better, that's okay. We're not going to hate. I just try to make things easy. Anyway, go connect. You can message Jess and be like, I have questions about this. And if you run Jess over, just give Jess time. Okay? That's how we're going to do that. Just be patient. That's okay. You can also come ask me. I'm always down for virtual coffee, one-on-ones, all kinds of stuff. Will does as time allows. I know he will talk your head off. He does it to me on a regular basis, and I love it. It's one reason I keep him around, though, because he keeps me grounded. And we'll see you all in 2 weeks.
Live long and prosper.
Yes. This is the part where we wave and go bye-bye. And just don't leave.